Thanks for staying tuned. I'm Colin Abrams with the HGP Sportscast. In cricket news, the 2017 Ghana Cricket Board Jaguars One-Day 50 Overs League bowled off on Tuesday with wins for Essequibo, Upper Currentine, Lower Currentine and West Demerara. Here's Kristen Macklingham.
The Jaguars One-Day League got underway Tuesday with the three-day champions Essequibo battling West Berbice at Imam Bacchus in Affiance Ground. It was a 30-overs game due to late start caused by unfavorable weather. Essequibo scored 189 for 9 with Kevin Bodie top scoring with 35, while Kemal Savory and Ricardo Adams both scored 34 runs. West Berbician Kelvin St. Clair grabbed 4 wickets for 30 runs. Essequibo won by 79 runs. Over at Port Morant, East Coast won the toss and were bowled out for 252 in 48.4 overs. Upper Quarantine in reply buried East Coast, reaching their target with a wicket to spare. Linda Lewis top scored with 66, while Kandasamy Surajnarayan was unbeaten on 64. Balchan Baldio also contributed 42. Kamesh Yadram swept up 5 wickets for 47 runs. At Albion, Georgetown won the toss and inserted Lower Quarantine. They made 249 for 6 in their 50 overs. Jonathan Fu came off 34 off 43 balls, and middle-order batsman Royston Crandon's 101 off 121 balls were the highlights of the innings. Bowling for Georgetown, Paul Winst and Ashmead Ned picked up 2 wickets each for 48 and 27 runs in that order. Georgetown, in reply, failed to reach their target, crumbling for 136 all out after 38 overs, with Shamroy Barrington top scoring with 29 off 29 balls. Lower Quarantine won by 113 runs. West Demerara's vice-captain Tej Narayan Chanderpaul top scored with an unbeatable 70, hitting 4 boundaries and pacing his team to 167 all out in 41.2 overs. Safraz Esau also added 35 to the score, while the team dissolved immensely by the bowling of East Bank's Ronaldo Ali Mohammed and Trevor France, who each picked up 3 wickets for 26 and 29 runs. East Bank folded for 136 all out in 37.3 overs, with Stephen Jacobs putting up 28, while Sachin Singh supported with 23 and Quasim Yusuf 22. West Demerara won by 32 runs. Round 2 plays off on November 23 with East Coast challenging Georgetown at GCC, Essequibo taking on East Bank at Imam Bacchus Ground. Lower Quarantine will face Upper Quarantine at Port Morant, while West Berbice will oppose West Demerara at Bush Lot. Reporting for HGP Sport, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thank you, Kristen. The West Indies have arrived in New Zealand for their tour of the island nation, set to begin on Saturday. Here's more in this report.
The squad includes Jason Holder, captain, Craig Brathwaite, Sunil Ambrus, Devendra Bishu, Jermaine Blackwood, Roston Chase, Miguel Cummins, Shane Dowrich, Shannon Gabriel, Shimron Hettimeyer, Shai Hope, Al-Zari Joseph, Kieran Powell, Raymond Rifer, and Kemar Roach. The 2 teams will go head-to-head from November 25 to January 3. There will be 3 days of practice matches from November 25 to 27. The action will then begin from December 1 to 5 with the first test, then December 9 to 13 will be the second test. The ODIs will be played over the period of December 20 to 26. The final game of the year will be the first T20 match on December 29. Then the tour will pick up steam again in the new year from January 1 with the second T20 and close on January 3 with the third T20 match to close the tour of New Zealand.
And in hockey, matches in the Ghana Hockey Board's 13th annual Diamond Mineral Water Indoor Hockey Festival started on Wednesday evening at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall and will continue over the weekend. Here's more in this report.
Wednesday's matches were Woodpecker Hikers versus Old Fort Shooting Stars, Bounty GCC versus Saints, Pizza Hut GCC versus Bingo Spartans, Old Fort versus GCC, Pepsi Hikers versus Old Fort, and Antonio's Hikers versus YMCA. Results for these matches will follow in a subsequent newscast. Matches set for November 23 are GCC Vintage versus Antonio's Hikers, Old Fort Shooting Stars versus Pizza Hut GCC, Old Fort versus Saints QPCC, Bounty GCC versus Pepsi Hikers, YMCA versus Old Fort, and QPCC versus Mixed Nuts. FIH and Pan American Hockey Federation's umpires manager, Mr. Roger St. Rose, will be in attendance this year to observe the competition, talent spot, and offer advice to officials. The tournament returns for the first time in several years to the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall with its new surface. Here's a rundown of the remaining matches of the tournament.
Russia's anti-doping agency fails to get its WADA suspension lifted, Javon Vickery reports.
When the World Anti-Doping Agency's board recently met in Seoul, it was the last scheduled chance for Russian competitors to get a clean bill of health for the Winter Olympics and reassure WADA that they have the ability to comply with WADA regulations. WADA's president, Sir Craig Reedy, said, quote, "We do have a situation from our Compliance Review Committee, which says the agreed roadmap for compliance for the Russian Anti-Doping Agency has been fulfilled in many ways, but there are still two issues which remain unfulfilled." End of quote. WADA wants Russia to acknowledge that they had a state-controlled doping program, but Russia continues to deny these allegations. Russian Sports Minister Pavel Kolobkov protested the decision, accusing the head of WADA Compliance Committee of, quote-unquote, acting as a judge and saying a number of things without allowing any appeal or discussion, end of quote. But it appears the mood among WADA's 38 board members was so strong that Reedy did not need to ask for a vote. The continued suspension increases the risk that Russia may boycott the next Olympics, the first such boycott by the sports superpower since 1984. Javon Vickery, HGP Sport.
Thank you, Javon, and that has brought us to the end of this edition of the HGP Sportscast. Before we go, remember, adversity causes some men to break and others to break records. Goodbye.